Things ramp up as we head towards the end. Let's talk this week's Star Wars Resistance.
How you get so big getting food of this kind?
Hello and welcome into this week's spoiler review for Star Wars Resistance, the episode Rebuilding the Resistance, because you have to have Resistance twice in the title. And this episode is a lot of what they've been promising. It was more of Kaz and Tam facing off, the kind of building conflict between Tam and Jace. It was the return of my, I hope, adopted space mother of Vanessa Dosa, and just more with the Dosa family, who are my favorites right now, and this was really, really good. I was really excited. The writer for this episode is the same writer as Rendezvous Point, which was the first episode that had Vanessa Dosa in it. She also wrote one of the episodes in the two-parter last week, and just has been writing some amazing stuff, so I was really excited to see her back. And this episode just delivered on, I think it delivered on all of the fronts. Before I get to the story again, I just want to say that the animation also in this episode was stunning. Anytime they're doing it wasn't a space battle because they weren't in space the whole time, but anytime they do a dog fight, especially, the animation really shines. Like, the method, however they do it, works really, really well for just the dynamics of spaceflight. The Star Destroyers always look beautiful. The explosions are fantastic. So that was stunning. The music was really cool. There was one point when all the ships are taken off that was once again kind of repurposed sequel trilogy music. Just the technical aspects of the episode were phenomenal on top of the episode itself. So let's start talking about the show. It opens with a bunch of X-Wings landing on the Colossus. This is Vanessa and her Jade Squadron. A couple of cool things happening here. I've noticed, again, Dosa is kind of making these decisions and not including Kaz, which I think is fine. It made sense in the last two episodes because it had nothing to do with the Resistance. I do think it's kind of funny that he was talking to the Resistance without including Kaz, but I think the Mutiny episode also showed that they don't really trust Kaz with secrets super well. But again, I really like that Kaz didn't do like the whiny boy thing of, why didn't I know when I was trying to, he's just kind of like happy that they're there, and I think that's a really cool point. I love the way Vanessa interacts with Yeager. I love that they're old pals. I loved how she interacts with her daughter. I love the way she and Captain Dosa interact. My one complaint is that the Dosa couple is reunited from for some amount of time, and literally the most affection they showed to each other in the episode was they hold hands at the end, and I'm like, come on guys, they're married. Like, you can have them miss each other when they get back, but whatever. But I did like seeing the warmth of her coming back. I liked seeing Kaz with his buddies. Like, the other members of her squadron is Norath, who we've seen in a couple episodes now, and then Hugh, which I didn't pick up on this, but I went back to the pilot episode because I was curious about it. Hugh was one of the two people flying with Kaz in the very first episode. So, like, we see him and then have him come back, and it was kind of like a Biggs moment. Oh, seeing your buddy again find your way to the Resistance. So that was cool. I also realized in the credits that Hugh was voiced by Sam Witwer, which I definitely did not hear when I listened to the first time, but like rewatching after that, I'm like, okay, yeah, that's totally Sam Witwer. I didn't pick up on it, but it super is. So that was kind of cool. Now I'm also currently speculating if Hugh isn't actually a deep agent of like a cloned Darth Maul, because I think that's possible. It's definitely possible. But all of this comes about because we're getting a little bit more character development with Captain Dosa. So he's been so worried about his people. I talked about in our review last week, like, the differences, or it might have been the Mutiny episode, the differences between him and Yeager. That Yeager is really more focused on the big fight, and Dosa's more focused on taking care of his own people. And there's nothing wrong with Dosa being worried about his own people, but he spent the last two episodes trying to find a place, trying to stay away from the fight. And this is the episode where he realizes he can't stay out of the fight. The fight's gonna find him no matter what. It's just a matter of, does he join or does he not join? Does he take this on his terms, or does he run forever? So this episode, as much as he wasn't taking an active part in the plot, it was continuously showing how Dosa has really come around on that. Obviously he would let his wife visit, but letting his wife visit, like, with an official mission for the Resistance, and letting her bring on other Resistance pilots, letting them stay there, letting them launch a mission from his ship, letting them bring on the recruits, and letting them stay. And there's this really nice scene between Vanessa and he where, she's saying, like, hey, this is the mission, can we do this? He says yes. It definitely is a decision that weighs on him, but he says yes. And she's like, you're not even gonna argue about it. And just a little line like that adds so much history. And what I love about the Dosa family is they're a very rare thing in Star Wars, which is they're a functional family, but they're not a functional family because everything is sunshine and rainbows. Like, his wife is gone all the time fighting in a war. Like, that's hard, and that's a hard thing to work through. And just in that line, it's a very efficient line, and it's a very well delivered line by the voice actress of, you're not even gonna fight with me about that, or argue with me about that, whatever the specific wording was, just showing that they have probably had this argument, and that maybe as the First Order was trying to take over the Colossus throughout the first season, that maybe Vanessa was trying to get the Resistance there the whole first season. And, how did she feel about, Dosa making a deal with the First Order, knowing that his wife was in the Resistance, and what kind of arguments might they have had? But they have these kind of arguments, and they're still working through it. And maybe that's part of my complaint about the most affection they show each other is holding hands at the end. Maybe they are working through some stuff and keeping it more secret for Torra's sake. But they are still a them. They are still a pair. And they're working through it. And I just think it's really cool to see that on screen. And I really hope we get some tie-in material down the road of the Dosa family, because the Dosa family is like everything that I think Star Wars has kind of been missing for a while. And I think the people who are not watching Resistance, for whatever reasons they're not watching Resistance, are really missing out on something that Star Wars really needs, like something like the Dosa family. Now, after this conversation where Dosa says, you can run your mission and you can go to Dantooine, they hear a sound, and then it's Kaz and Torra hiding in the elevator listening to the whole thing. And I love Kaz and Torra. I love how they interact. I've said before, like, I personally read Kaz and Torra as a more like a sibling buddy relationship. I know there's a lot of people out there who do ship them, and I'm not trying to be like, you're wrong, but like that's not how I read it. But personally, I read it as a really cute sibling like relationship, and I think it's funny that they're hiding in the elevator and they're both listening, and they like both tumble out and they're like, we'll both go. And I love the way the two of them interact with each other. I don't know, I just thought that was a cute moment to add some fun character beats to something that was having some very dramatic character beats. And then Vanessa picks Hype as her other pilot. And Hype has been a very interesting character who has had some very low-key character development throughout the series that I've really liked. And I'll talk more about what goes on with Hype at the end of the episode. But that kind of forms out Jade's squadron so that they can go and run this mission and pick up recruits from the planet of Dantooine. Dantooine is a really cool reference. So we first heard Dantooine in 77. I didn't, because I wasn't alive in 77, but like people first heard of Dantooine in 1977 as the Gambit, when Leia is captured and on the Death Star, and she's supposed to reveal that the rebels are on the forest moon of Yavin. That, she says that they're on Dantooine. They're on Dantooine. That there's remains of a rebel base, but it's not the rebel base. So Dantooine has since appeared in a lot of other Star Wars material, great storylines in the Knights of the Old Republic games, in Legends, but it's just kind of cool to see, like, oh, there's actually this base on Dantooine now, when it was like the red herring base earlier. So just as a shout out, I don't know, I just thought it was a cool planet to pick, and we got to see a little bit of it, even though we didn't spend a lot of time on it, and it was something I appreciated. Another cool connection, the Resistance recruits leaving in that shuttle. I don't know that it looked exactly the same, but it just made me feel like the Rise of the Resistance ride at Galaxy's Edge, which if you haven't gone to Galaxy's Edge yet and or haven't gotten to ride the ride, I know some people are really iffy on spoilers for the ride, and I won't say anything specific, but the point of the ride is that you're a Resistance recruit and you're supposed to fly away. So I felt like there was a little bit of interconnectedness there as well, whether that was intentional or not. I liked that. I also liked during Vanessa's speech, she's talking about how, like, we're the spark, and spark is used so much. It was said a couple of times in Last Jedi. It's, Spark of the Resistance is a book that you can get that was a lead into the Rise of Skywalker. So this word of spark and lighting fires of hope and all of this stuff has been kind of a through line of resistance vocabulary. And it was cool to have that connect in this story as well. Now, before they leave for this mission, Vanessa and Yeager are having a chit-chat. Vanessa tells Yeager about Tam. Now, where we left at the end of the last episode was Yeager telling Kaz that we have to give up on Tam. And I felt like this episode, in a couple of points, very specifically addressed what Yeager did at the end of that last episode, because I found that to be really heavy-hitting. That Yeager not only has given up on Tam, but is trying to convince Kaz to give up on Tam. And that's kind of the level of hurt that Yeager feels, and probably the level of guilt that Yeager feels, that there's a couple of different things in play there. And so, Vanessa brings Tam up, and Yeager isn't immediately dismissive. He wants to know how she is. And Vanessa's like, she is conflicted, she is working through a lot, but tells Yeager again, she's got to do this on her own. You can't force this on her. And Vanessa's absolutely correct, because, kind of trying to force something on Tam, or forcibly not have that decision on Tam, is what led to Tam leaving in the first place. That if Yeager had just trusted Tam more, she might not have ever run off to the First Order. So, Vanessa saying, Yeager, no, now the only thing you can do is trust Tam. Even when you feel like you can't, all you can do now is trust her. And it's just Vanessa running around being everybody's space mom, which is what I love about her. She's such a good space mom. And I hope that conversation put some faith back into Yeager, because I'm really hoping that next week, when we get the final 2 episodes, that we're gonna see more of, Tam coming back and see that payoff between her and Yeager. I don't know if that's what we're gonna get, but I'm hoping for it, and I'm hoping that this episode is setting that up. I really loved all of it, of Torra and Vanessa flying together. I liked that Torra was like, I did your pre-flight check for you, and I ran through it. Not like a dutiful daughter, but almost like a dutiful, second in command in a squadron, right? That this is something you would do to help your squadron leader who was busy planning. So you did the pre-flight check and that sort of thing. And so I like seeing Torra really fall well into that role of like, hey, I'm gonna help out my commander, and not just be like, well, mom, I can do it. But yet they still had that familial connection while they flew. And you see Vanessa, she is the worried mom. She is, hey, when we get there, remember to stay on my wing. And you have that moment, but that's really all that Vanessa does. Like, she checks on Torra when they're flying in battle. She's like, do you feel like you're up to this move? When she's like, oh, are you thinking what I'm thinking? It's like the Dosa dive, which, first of all, I love the concept that there's a Dosa dive. Even then, she's like, do you think you can do it? And Torra's like, yes. And it's not in the same way that her dad is sometimes, of like this, oh, I'm worried about you, you shouldn't do this thing. It is I'm gonna check on you and make sure you're okay, but if you tell me you're okay, I'm gonna trust you. Like, the trust of Vanessa Dosa is this insane charging resource. Like, it's such a beautiful thing to feel like someone looks at you and trusts you, and that they have faith in you, and that inspires so much out of a person. And I feel like that's Vanessa's trait, that she can make you feel really good about you because she's gonna let you be you. And you see that a lot in her relationship with her daughter, which would be one of the hardest relationships to kind of practice what you preach there. As they're flying, before they get into battle, we see the guys kind of give Kaz a hard time, but it was good natured. They were picking on him, telling stories of like Kaz almost getting kicked out of the academy from misunderstandings. But then when they got into the fight, they were, there was no competition. Even Hype accepts help from Kaz multiple times throughout the episode, which was something really good to see. So, they have this camaraderie, they have this, they can pick on each other thing, but they don't then have that correlate into how they fight, that it doesn't bring them down. And it shows you that they are this really good team because they can really pick on each other. But then at the end of the day, they're still going to be there for each other, and they have that maturity, even if they have immature levity moments. I also just love the bit where Torra says she intentionally ejected Torch from her ship when she was learning how to fly, because it's just such a Torra thing. We get to the final battle that takes up a good chunk of the end of the episode, and it was so well done. It was so tense, the emotion of what was going on, just little details in the writing. Jace using Tam's number instead of her name, how he's just like so honed in on the First Order, and just the way they keep kind of taking the decision away from Tam. Like, Tam has still not had to make her ultimate choice. She once again is flying and has Kaz in her sights, but then gets shot down and she has to fly away. But she's not out of the fight, she's able to fix her ship, but when Gallic gets shot down, then, you know, she kind of has to take over. But even before she's able to make a single call as squadron leader, the decision to shoot down the shuttle is taken out of her hands, and Tam gets promoted for something that was out of her hands. And so Tam is kind of getting deeper and deeper and deeper in, but she's getting deeper and deeper in because she really hasn't made her decision yet. And the longer she's waiting to make her decision, the harder it's going to be to make said decision. But they're also just kind of delaying it. So at no point in time are we ever really feeling like Tam is a villain, even though she's still with the villains. And I think that was really well done and seen in this episode. At the end of the episode, Tam is so broken because she knows innocent people were killed. Earlier in the episode, when they were getting the briefing about the mission, you know, she spoke up about not wanting to go after innocents, and Gallic was like, well, do you have a problem with that? And Tam does have a problem with that, because Tam isn't this bad person. You know, Tierney is doing so much to keep Tam isolated. You know, after that kind of discussion about fighting the innocents, Tierney talks to her about, you know, this is the comm link that you gave me, and I wasn't sure you were really on our side until you got this it gave me this comm link, and I used to live under the New Republic, and I struggled, and now I'm here. You know, she's really trying to make Tam feel like she's on this same journey that Tierney was on, to draw her in and make her feel connected to Tierney, so that she doesn't really have any other connections anywhere else. And I think that's part of where Tam's promotion comes from. And it was something I you know, kind of saw the seeds of the last time we saw Tam, but wasn't really sure what they were trying to do with it. Here, to me, I think it's very clear that they would know that Jace is the one who shot down the shuttle, but they promoted Tam, and I think this is actually to further isolate her from even Jace, because now even Jace has turned on her. Jace is like, you got promoted when I earned it, and so now they're not even friends. And this is something we would see in the Imperial playbook a lot, and I think it's something we see in the First Order playbook a lot, is that anybody whose weakness is connections to other people, the way you get them to on your side is to take away their connections from other people. So now she doesn't even have, like, her super ideological friend anymore. Like, Jace has turned on her. If she's the squadron lead, you know, she's not going to be staying in with other squadron people. Like, she's going to have her own quarters. Like, she is fully isolated and kind of left alone with her decisions. And so this is kind of like the highest point but the lowest point for Tam as we go into the series finale. Similarly, Kaz and Torra and Hyper are down at the end of the episode. They're really bummed out that things went the way they went, that they lost the shuttle. And then it's Yeager and Vanessa and Dosa who have to, like, cheer them up and say, like, yes, we lost a shuttle and that's terrible and that's sad, but we got 2 shuttles, and the importance of that. This is the part where I was kind of talking about with Yeager and Tam, as Dosa has this line of, giving up on people is the easy way out, but we're better than that. And he's saying that to Kaz about Tam, but Yeager knows what he said about Tam. And I think this is, again, something saying, like, Yeager, don't take the easy way out and give up on Tam. You are better than that. And it was a really subtle way to reference something we had seen in another episode that is definitely a direct connection, but wasn't hitting you over the head about it either. And I thought it was really, I don't know, I really liked that. And then again, you get the end with Dosa and Vanessa, and they have their sweet little moment. And Dosa says, like, you know, I'm done running from this fight. And now we have everybody fully committed. Like, last week we saw our heroes, you know, wondering, should we rest? What's life going to be like when there's no war? Should I run off and join the war? What does real war look like? And all of these things. And then this episode was really about, like, nope, we're committed. We're a part of the cause now. We're in the resistance now. And that takes us into next week. And next week is going to be the final episodes of Star Wars Resistance. It's going to be 2 episodes, as I understand it. I am so excited to see how it ends, but I'm so sad to be leaving these characters. I'm absolutely heartbroken to be leaving these characters. But we're gonna go for it. You know, it's coming whether we want it to or not. But those are my many thoughts about this episode. I loved it so much. It was the perfect lead up to the finale, I think. Having not seen the finale, I'm sure there's other things I'd like to say that it probably does that I'm not even aware that it's doing. But I'm so excited for next week. But please leave me a comment telling me what you thought about the episode. If you're not already, follow us on all of the socials so we can talk more about the show there. And until next week, keep it real. semi-casual.
Cooking can be fun.